I'm sure you had a great day today listening to all the different aspects of what's happening in this industry, and in the industry that all of us are very proud to be part of. So today I'm going to speak about the smartphone revolution. So let's start off with what is a revolution, right? We have been hearing this term, smartphone revolution, but what exactly is a revolution? There are two basic aspects of a revolution. One, that it enables a massive change, right? Change of profound influence. So something like, a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. What was before and what was after, almost indistinguishable. And the other thing, which is very significant in the concept of a revolution, is the concept of mass, right? Millions and billions of involvement. And these two things define what a revolution is. And so when I was thinking about what to talk about for a August audience like this, I thought those words smartphone and revolution, they mean so much to all of us, and how as a developer or as any user or as a consumer of this industry, how we can leverage from that. So let's look at the history of the world itself. I'll go very quickly. I'm just not a study in history. Fire, wheel, tools, taming, all of this changed the way landscape was, right? From the cave to a settlement. Then you had things like homes, farming, irrigation, writing. It changed again. These were different points of revolution in the history. Print, engines, IC engines, radio, TV, all of that. The landscape changed. In our times is the computer and the internet. Right? And it has made the world look like this. You don't know where the world ends, where the world starts. Right? And one of the key drivers to this in recent times has been computing. Why I'm bringing about computing, I'll just come to that a little later. If you look at mainframes in the 1960s, 1970s, it was micros, PCs, internet. And what is driving the computing power of the world today is mobile internet. Right? There's a concept called singularity, which has been, people are talking about these days, which is borrowed from mathematics and astrophysics, where, according to Time magazine, in 2045, the total computing power, right, of machines would exceed that of a human being. That's an inflection point in the history of mankind. So what would really drive singularity, in my opinion, is the mobile internet. The combination of two of the most powerful ecosystems that we know of, the mobile and the internet, right? So if you look at how it's emerged itself, right? Phones of clickety-clank phones, and you have a phone like a Samsung Note. Each of these is a landmark in the whole evolution of what I told is the point of singularity, right? If you look at a machine like this, you can't call it a phone, it's a machine, right? It has got more computing power than the PC at home. It's got more memory, it has got more functionality, it's got more sensors than my PC, than my laptop. So an amazing amount of computing ability is now in our pockets, in our hands. And that's the primary driver of this revolution. The other aspect that I talked about is mobilization, right? Look at this growth in the smartphone industry. Global unit of sales in millions. 2010 we were here. In 2016 we are talking of about 1.6 billion. Right? There are a lot of jokes that there are more mobile phones than toilets, more mobile phones than spectacles. Maybe even in this room, maybe there are more mobile phones than pens, right? So the volume of mobile phones today is so enormous, and it is going to grow at this rate. So it's just going to change everything that we know of. And I'm talking 2016. If we forecast it to that point of 2045, God knows, right? It's amazing to be a part of that industry. And I'm sure all of us are very proud that we are at that top crest of perhaps the biggest revolution that mankind is seeing. What is causing this paradigm shift? So I'll spend a little more time here. Right? Most of us associate, as we said, it's a smartphone revolution. But what is smartphone? So I have my son once asked me, because he's in class 11, he's asking me all kinds of uncomfortable questions. He asked me, what are you going to talk about smartphone? What is a smartphone? So then I have a younger son too. He's in class 6. So I just tried an experiment and I gave him one phone. And I saw what he does with the phone. Then I gave it to another of his friends. I see what he does with the phone. Then I realized an object is called smart when it no longer does what it was originally intended to do. Right? So when I gave these phones to all these small children, none of them made any phone call. None of them even messaged. They were doing all other things that all of you developed. Right? So a phone is now a carrier of recommendation, accessories, is wearable, augmented reality. Whenever even we do advertisements on phone, people don't talk about speaking anymore. That makes the phone smart, possibly. And even if you go to smart TV, Samsung makes a lot of smart TVs, I find the same thing happening. So this is a very peculiar thing that's happening with devices, becoming smart, but something else, right? So what is driving this? Two big things. One is sensors, and the other one is services, the two S's, which makes it smart. So this is just the hardware called the phone in its classical form. But the sensors together, along with services, this thing on the left-hand side, with the plus sign, is what is driving this paradigm shift. We'll use this device, now let's call it the smartphone, for sharing, personal, social, new functionalities. We talk about accessories or accessories, wearable stuff, augmented reality, intelligent adaptive services, things like personal assistant. All of these things now get included in the smartphone. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes, because each of these topics can be a full day session, on what is driving this smartphone, the different drivers of technology. So let's go quickly. Let's look at semiconductor. Of course, we know that we are reaching the edge of normal fabrication, so maybe nanotechnology will drive this. Displays and all of that will be new age materials. People are talking of graphene, many other things. Of course, you know that internet world is changing to what is the cloud world. In wireless communication, there will be two big drivers. One is interference management, and the other is spectrum management. And largely because of the way we are packing in things into the device. There's Wi-Fi, NFC, GPS, Bluetooth, low power Bluetooth, what else, right? And maybe 5 other things. Each 4G, 5G, each require diversity, many antennas. Somebody did a calculation that soon we'll have 24 antennas in a phone. Just imagine. So interference and spectrum management are going to be two big things. Of course, then we have augmented reality, the way we deal with, not the classical augmented reality, but the way we deal with data. Human engineering, of course. I think this is one very, very important area for a developer community on how people perceive the phone and how you interact with it. And of course, while we do this, how we do it in a clean way. So there is other important shift that is happening with the smartphone revolution. One, that what were the tangible differentiators in the classical sense, in the non-smart world, things like design, specification, price, cost, all of that has changed, right? People do not talk about those things anymore. When we talk about differentiation, we talk about services, content, software that enables that. It's a big, big shift. We are all a part of that shift. We are perhaps enablers of that shift. Maybe this community here is driving that shift, right? But unless we step out and see, sometimes it's very difficult for us to figure out that this big shift has happened. And that shift is one of the biggest things that has made a non-smart device into a smartphone. The other, of course, in terms of communication technology, we know that 3.5G is going to go to 4G, 5G, all of that. That's going to be a big, big shift. The other big change that is happening in the landscape is the concept of closed and native services becoming open and web services, right? Somebody just talked about how the web, right, as a platform itself, be it in the cloud or be it in the phone itself. And that is where the services will run. So the phone, which was a communication device, now has become a provider of services. It's a platform to enable services. So there's a big difference. And that's a shift that all of us are seeing. The other very, very significant change that people in this industry would realize is that about whole concept of emphasis on network and multimedia, where all of us, including myself, we have been engineers struggling to, look at network management or, the way we deal with the cellular standards, multimedia performance, graphics performance. These were our big, thrust areas. The maximum number of engineers were sitting and solving these problems, just till recently, maybe even now. But that shift is happening. And it's going to, the entire paradigm is moving to cloud and server-based technology. We are already talking of phones that would be just a simple connector to the web, and everything will happen in the cloud. There are already such kind of devices, proof of concept available. So this big change, especially with the concept of cloud coming in, is going to be a big platform for all of us here. And of course, as I talked about human engineering, same thing. Simple touch-based, simple interfaces will evolve and happen very, very quickly into multimodal human interactions, right? Because, as I said, mass mobilization, if 1.6 billion people have to interact with these kind of devices, obviously, you have to have very, very different ways by which you have to interact with the device. So what does it mean for a community like ours? What can we do, and what do we need to think about when we talk about the smartphone? Revolution is happening. It's happening very fast. It's happening right under our feet, and it's a great opportunity for us. So I just want to kind of leave these thoughts with all of you, that when you look at even exploiting or creating opportunities within the system, look at compartmentalizing in three different ways. One is in terms of how this device is a social enabler, right? It helps us to communicate to people whom we know, whom we don't know, different friends, relatives, club mates. So there is this whole community communication going on, right, with this device. But that's one. So when we talk about applications or we talk about solutions, one dimension of that is this whole social angle. The other very, very important angle is, at least in Samsung, we believe majorly into this, because we have this capability that we have multiple devices. We have, we leaders in smart TVs, we are leaders in mobile phones, all kinds of stuff, automotive, electronics. So we see that there's a major convergence happening in it. So you should not think about this device all by itself, the mobile phone by itself, right? It is a connected device. It's connected to your TV. It's connected to your car. It's connected to your PC, right? It's connected maybe tomorrow to your mind. So, or to a health device, bioelectronics, all of that. So that gives us another great opportunity for a developer community, that you do not now think of the device just as this lonely stranger here, but a device that is connected to this entire gamut of other devices. So that's dimension number 2. And the third dimension is the way we engage with the world, be at office, be at home, be at travel, be at vacation. Right? So how we engage gives us, again, multiple opportunities. And here the sensors come in. We have GPS, NFC, right? And maybe God knows what else will come in. So with all of that, the way you will interact with this device and the way we conduct business not just commercial business, the way we conduct with our way of life will all change. So as developers, I believe that these three dimensions should guide the way the smartphone revolution will happen and the way opportunities will open up in this revolution. Thank you very much. It was nice interacting with all of you.